Excellent. Right. Thank you. Really exciting to be involved. I think, look, as we all know, it's the reason we're all here. Co-living is, it's both an important aspect of, the kind of residential property industry. It's definitely growing, and I think it's exciting to be involved in it. So, before we're going to get into the meat of it, I'll give you just a couple of seconds context on us, on Fact Properties. So yes, as Neil was saying, we're property developers and investors. We design, we develop, and we operate kind of premium student co-living accommodation. Students are our niche, although we also operate some professional co-living as well. In all honesty, the tag is less important to us. Whether someone's a student, a postgrad, a PhD, a young professional, a young doctor, whatever it may be, it's about their interests, their wants, their needs, their culture, etc. So, our focus is on designing and developing properties which improve the well-being of the people who live there. And people always say to us, "Oh, that's really nice. Does that stack up? Do they make money?" And our response is very simply that yes, it proves to be a more attractive product, to our tenants. Revenue is higher, costs are typically lower, and as a result, they typically perform better than our peers. So myself and Philippa, that's my wife, she was meant to be here as well. She's been a little bit under the weather this week. She's had tonsillitis. Our son has had chicken pox. It's all hit the fan this week, but which is why I wasn't here joining in on the talks earlier. I wanted to, but anyway. So we come from architecture and design backgrounds. We've been doing what we do now, developing student co-living, for about 7 years. Currently got a portfolio of about £3 million that we've developed and under management. Our book, which Van impressed me with earlier, he held up a copy, wherever you are, Van. Awesome to see that. That was very exciting. That went number 1 on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, so that was cool earlier this year. We launched a podcast by the same name. We're about to record series 2 early in the new year. And this kind of last one, 99% plus occupancy, I put that in. That we were running kind of just over 99% occupancy before COVID. It's changed a little bit, but it's not dropped below that. Even through COVID, I put that down to, look, a little bit of luck for sure, but also design quality and the customer experience that we try and deliver. I think they are just the 2 key things, and they've insulated us from a lot of the chaos that's been going on. So this is our core belief, really, that the days of developing property, investing in property, co-living, is not just solely about individual profit. I hope those days are gone. To me, financial returns are the prerequisite. They're the baseline. We want to make money. We've got to make money. That's good. There's no shame in that, but that's just the baseline. The question for us is, what more can you do? What impact can you have through your work, through your development, through your operations, that can have a positive impact on the world? So in the Western world, I don't know if you've seen this statistic before or not, it's frightening. I honestly didn't believe it first time I saw it, but we spend over 90% of our time inside buildings, 65% in our home. That's almost 8 months a year in our home, which is astonishing. I don't even want to think what those numbers are through COVID. They're obviously going to be higher. But the one plus, I think, that has come out of COVID is that people are becoming increasingly aware of how important it is to look after their mental and their physical well-being. Excuse me. I don't know about you. Our position is fortunate. We live in a nice part of the world. Great relationships, good family life. We're financially stable. It's still had lockdown, COVID. It's still been tough. Everybody now gets it. We must prioritize our physical, mental well-being. It's no joke. So what's happening? Humans, basically, we're not designed to spend so much time indoors. We've spent as a species, 99% of our time outside, from an evolutionary perspective. It's really only since the Industrial Revolution that we have started spending significant portions of our time inside. The human body and psyche are not designed for such long periods insides. And what that means is the way we design our buildings, the way we design our homes must respond to that. I don't know about you guys, but I am firmly, certainly over the past, I was going to say a few months, probably a couple of years, I've been the guy on the right, hunched over a laptop, not particularly healthy, probably liking to imagine I'm the guy behind it with a briefcase. Really, I think I probably want to be in the guy in the middle with a spear, just kind of running around naked, catching food. I don't know. Anyway, before I scare you too much more. So how does the world around us, the architecture, the urban landscape affect our well-being, affect our physical health, our mental health? We've all got our favorite spaces, places we like to go, places we like to sit and relax in our home. You know, we know that some places make us happy, make us feel uplifted. Some places rather do the opposite. So what is it that makes places appealing? And not just instantly happy, but what makes us, you know, do well in the long term? What makes us flourish as people? So there's a little exercise, humor me for a minute. Imagine you're in this hotel lobby, okay, and you're waiting to meet a friend. Okay, looks pretty nice. It's not the kind of place we go anymore with 3 little kids in tow, but I'd love to. Would you be happy to sit and have a coffee? Would you be happy, you know, if your friend was a few minutes late, you had to stay there a few minutes longer than expected? Would you strike up a conversation with a stranger? You know, when the door opens, what kind of person do you expect to walk through the door? So think about that for a second, and then do the same here. Right? When the door opens and you're in this room, what kind of person are you going to expect to come through the door? Do you want to sit and have a coffee here? There isn't even any seating. Do you want to sit on the floor? Would it be relaxing? How long do you want to stay? You know, I'm using extremes, of course, but the point is the environment affects our mood. It affects our frame of mind. It affects our physiology, you know, our heart rate, our breathing rate, cortisol levels, our stress. It affects our emotion, our relationships. You know, are you gonna be your girlfriend or your boyfriend, you know, back to this place if this is where you live? Depressingly, this is a place that we bought at the end of last year. People had just moved out of here. There was people living in here, and we've not removed anything. We didn't kick the cupboard doors off. This is literally, they've left and we've come in. This was someone's living conditions, which is sad. And better well-being doesn't just improve our lives in the short term, okay? It gives us a framework for better productivity, health, and success throughout life. And that, you know, that's ultimately the foundation of a productive society, okay? A healthy society and a productive economy is to have a population of people who are doing well, who are performing well, who are leading rich and fulfilling lives. It's not just about altruism. You know, the global wellness industry is worth 90 billion a year and it's growing. Wellness is a megatrend, a global megatrend. Now, you know, the industry includes everything from travel to accommodation to, you know, face cream. But what it shows is that people spend money on products and on services which are designed around their needs. Okay, they want to look after themselves better, they want to live better lives, and their spending choices shape the market. And they will shape the property market, and they are shaping the property market already. You know, when we look at the property market, co-living, HMOs, kind of broadly, and if we were kind of to map, you know, overall value, so I don't mean financial value, I'm talking about value received by or experienced by the person living there, design, quality, service, customer experience. What we'd see, like most industries, is a bell curve, right? On the left, very little value provided, and the developers will complain, there's no money in property anymore, it's, you know, it's had its day. In the middle is tough, you know, it's competitive, there isn't necessarily always as much demand as there is supply. There is money to be made, it's not guaranteed, and the market is oversaturated is the common complaint. It's something certainly we hear a lot. And off to the right, you know, we've got well-designed, experience-rich, good value schemes. It's where we hear of innovators. It's where we hear of people disrupting the market. It's the things we see in the media and the magazines. And typically these developers are, enjoying more demand, more revenue, lower costs potentially. It's not easy, but it's definitely more profitable. The challenge, of course, is how do we go from left to right? And there's two key things. It's design and it's customer experience. This is a quote which from earlier in the year, I think from Allsop's kind of major consultancy. Well-considered serverless schemes outperforming prime but complacent schemes. It's easy to kind of wash over that and not see the kind of impact of it. But what they're saying is, and when they explain, it's incredibly clear. Prime location alone is not going to bring success as a developer. The two primary drivers of demand and of revenue are design quality and experience. Experience and service. So before we kind of get into what good design is, I want to spend a minute and just talk about what good design isn't. Good design is not pandering to Instagram, to Pinterest, to Facebook lights. They're all good, but they're not what should be driving things. Beauty is more than skin deep. Design is about people, fundamentally. Buildings, in my mind, really just have one purpose, and that's to help people lead rich, fulfilling lives. Aesthetics are nice, of course. They're the last part of the puzzle. They're what gets layered on top of solid foundations of places that work well for the people who live there. Famous quote, love this quote, design is not just what it looks like, it's how it works. And look, if it's good enough for Steve Jobs, I think it's good enough for all of us. So here's the thing. If we understand the importance of our home to our well-being and the importance of better well-being, not just to the individual, but to society as a whole, and if we understand actually the business benefits that brings us as developers, the obvious question is, how do we do it? How do we design well? How do we design to improve well-being, improve quality of life? And if we're not just focusing on what it looks like, what the hell do we do? Now, it's kind of process of writing our book, we delved into literally hundreds and hundreds of research studies from across the world, different cultures, different demographics, different kind of market sectors. Worked with different investors, obviously learned from what we do and from what we see on the ground, kind of hands-on as well. And what we find is there's basically four fundamental aspects of our lives that create good well-being. Okay, so there's our ability to develop a sense of purpose in life and our opportunity to pursue it, so our focus. There's our physical health, our fitness. There are the positive relationships we enjoy, our friendships. They may, from the intimate to the large social. And lastly, there is finance. That's not wealth, but what it is, it's control over finances, the avoidance of kind of avoidable financial stress is a huge part of kind of maintaining good well-being. And those four quadrants of well-being can translate into design objectives to kind of guide the design process, high-level objectives. So focus, we need to support the wider ambition of the occupant. And first and foremost, you need to know your people. Who are you designing for? What are they doing? You're not going to know every detail, of course, but broad trends. Are they, how old are they? What do they do? Are they in the service industry typically? Is it an entrepreneurial area? Is it are you near big hospitals? What are people doing? What is their focus in life? And how do you serve that? Is there the space and the environment to work from home, to study? Is there the space and the natural light and the ergonomics and the power and the storage? We'll get onto all these things in a minute or two. But are we designing spaces that let people do what they want and need to do? Secondly, fitness. we need to facilitate and encourage healthy lifestyle choices. Design can nudge people in the right way. Do you want it to be easier for people to make healthy lifestyle choices and have a good diet and enjoy physical activity? Is the kitchen designed well to encourage healthy cooking? Is there bike storage? Is there space for people to sit and eat together? There's actually research that shows that when people cook and eat together, they typically cook more nutritious food. So just something as simple as that can have these kind of wide-ranging effects. It needs to be a sociable place. Obviously, there's a in co-living for a reason. Without the spaces to form and enjoy relationships, co-living fails, essentially. Lounges, kitchens, dining areas, co-working spaces, spaces for large groups, spaces for smaller, more intimate groups. Dining, again, and I've just said it's a huge one. A dining table is always so much more than a dining table. Breakfast bars are great, but it's not a sociable setup. Yes, is it a functional place to eat a meal? Yes, but it's not the most sociable. Potentially looking at a wall in a row. Dining tables are a focal point. And then finance. For the developer, that's really about delivering good value for money. Excuse me. We all want to receive good value. Are you delivering it? It doesn't mean cheap, but what it does mean is providing, a damn good place, damn good service, making people feel cared for, that they've spent their hard-earned money wisely. So what we've done is kind of transfer these objectives into design principles that we can use kind of to design a development. And they essentially kind of sit as a hierarchy. They can be thought of as a hierarchy in that the lower ones, at the base, typically make sense to deal with before you move up. Now, there's always a bit of chaos in the design process, and it doesn't have to be strict or rigid, but the point is that we work up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through these. I'd love to spend the rest of the afternoon talking about them. Obviously, we don't have the time, so I'm going to kind of fly through them and focus on some key ones. Location. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because I'm sure everybody has their due diligence down and sorted. The one point I would make is that I think that data and desktop due diligence is obviously essential, but it must be complemented by some soft skills. I'm a huge proponent of data and analytical tools, but that's not all there is. People are very dismissive of of using your gut and your heart when you are approaching property development. It's unprofessional. It should be purely spreadsheet driven. My response to that is that the people you want to live in a development, they don't care. They don't give a shit about your spreadsheets or your data. What they know and what they see is how a place feels, how a neighborhood feels. Is it safe for a young woman to walk home at night? Does that feel safe? Does it feel safe to go for a run after work? Has the place got a nice character? So there's a lot of nuances that can be picked up from some kind of urban design analysis, which is all about qualitative assessment versus just quantitative assessment and numbers. So, do your technical numbers due diligence, of course, but don't be afraid to put a little heart and gut into it as well. Layout. Now, this is fundamentally about how spaces are organized. There's a kind of building layout, and then there are the layout of each individual space. Now, at the building level, at the development level, we want a mix of spaces, and they want to be differentiated from one another, from the most social to the most private, from general multi-purpose spaces to specific task-oriented spaces. And I think it's kind of helpful to think about the organization's layout at two levels. There are zones, i.e. there might be social zones, where there are, within which there are a range of spaces. So, large-scale social spaces, maybe co-working spaces, smaller intimate spaces, cooking, dining, obviously. And then there is a more private, there are more private zones. So bedrooms, potentially bathrooms, personal study areas. And what you want to try and do is you don't want to be mixing them. For example, you don't want to have a a bedroom coming directly off a large social space. Complete lack of privacy for whoever is going to live in that bedroom, to have to walk out of their bedroom, the most private and intimate of spaces, into a very large social space. That's not really nice. And then there's the layout of the individual spaces, the individual rooms themselves. And, this primarily comes down to function. Why are people in that space? What are they trying to do? Often the space will serve more than one function. You need to provide for that function. Don't cramp things up. Provide ease of movement, circulation. Moving up again, once we kind of start to work the layout out, is biophilia. And that's really just, biophilia essentially just means that humans' innate connection with nature. It might be through the introduction of plants in a building. It might be through providing views outside to a green space. It might be using natural materials, natural forms and patterns to evoke a connection with nature. Natural light is important. Natural tactile materials are good. Even natural patterns and imagery can bring benefits. And if you think this is kind of soft, kind of wishy-washy stuff, it's absolutely not. There are some incredible studies which have been, not just one study, but studies from across the world showing the benefits of biophilic design. In offices, simply putting people next to windows with views of green spaces can increase their productivity up to kind of 20-25%, which is astonishing. What it does is it just gives the eye a little bit of rest, and the brain a little bit kind of micro rest, lets you concentrate for longer, increases your productivity. Children in school with biophilic design elements are able to concentrate more, feel more engaged with their work, they end up learning faster. Hospital patients need less pain medication, they recover faster when they have biophilic design elements there, be it plants or views of green spaces. Even TV screens have been shown in doctors' waiting rooms. There's this amazing study where they showed one group of people urban scenes on a TV, another group of people daytime television, and another group of people natural scenes on the TV. And the people seeing the natural scenes literally just on a TV in a doctor's waiting room had measurably lower blood pressure and stress levels than the other people. So it's powerful stuff. Shoppers have been shown to pay more for products when they are in a kind of green, leafy setting. So, we can all learn something from this. Do you want the people in your developments to enjoy these benefits? Who wouldn't? Neuroscientists, this is a funny one. They've actually found that views of natural scenes actually trigger the same receptors in our brains that are triggered by opioids. So literally looking at nature, maybe not as intense as taking heroin, definitely less risky, but it's the same parts of the brain. So again, even images, even static images, move people towards that place. Comfort, the next one, as we kind of building up this hierarchy, physical comfort is obviously critical, to our experience within a space. How, in a home, how we sleep, our relaxation, our productivity, satisfaction, general well-being is hugely impacted by it. Uncomfortable conditions in buildings, discomfort of furniture, spaces which are too hot, too cold, too noisy, too light or dark at night, can make us unhappy. They can affect our sleep, again, limit productivity, limit how much time we spend with each other. So all of these things here, temperature, noise, light, air quality, physical things, the furniture, the fixtures, they all need to be considered through the design process from the early stages of layout, talking about light, obviously, noise, again, thinking about layouts, where are the noisy spaces going to be, where are the quiet spaces, let's get a little bit of separation there, let's think about the infrastructure of the building, the insulation. So these considerations need to go from the outset all the way through to literally choosing, furniture and fixtures. Personalization and control. Now, in our niche in student accommodation, in the purpose-built sector, obviously fixed furniture in the room is, is modular, it's repeatable, it's a great, from a business point of view, perfect. Let's fit everything out like that, all identikit stuff. But there's kind of fascinating research that shows that if we believe we have more control over our environment, people are happier, even if they don't actually exert any controls. Even if they do nothing, the knowledge that they could change something makes them more content. Now, maybe that is moving furniture around. Maybe it is, putting things up on the wall. Maybe it is using pegboards, whatever it may be. Working within the restrictions of what you're doing as a designer, as a developer, as an investor, it's an important thing to get in. Just letting people have a bit of control over their surroundings, in whatever way is possible. So, the kind of top of the hierarchy, beauty, character, aesthetics. It's kind of what we started off with saying. This is not what it's all about. It's not the only thing that it's about. There's all these fundamental things that need to happen first, but without doubt, this is the icing on the cake. This is what brings it all together. This is what attracts tenants. This is what attracts investors. This is the fun end game. So it pulls it all together. It's definitely, the art to the science of other elements of the design process. Without getting into, trends and colors and things like that. That's, kind of project and target market specific. What I would say is there is a balance between, being on trend and being timeless. Good design should last. It should stand the test of time, I think. We definitely don't want to have something that is so, on trend that within, 12 months, 24 months, it's old hat, it's old news, and it's not interesting anymore. And, what we find is, look, keep big ticket items, kitchens, bathrooms, tiles, big expensive furniture, the things which are hard to change, big and expensive, keep those on the more neutral side, the more classic side. And then things which are smaller and easier to change and lower cost, that's where, use those things to inject the style and character and fun and, the things that are more on trend. Even, walls and colors, look, things get repainted and redecorated, lots as part of, maintenance regime. So, that can 100% change. Materials, natural materials, they age so well, they are classic, they appeal to our senses, not just our sight, but touch, they always last. So yeah, I think balancing the potential conflict between lasting and being on trend and attracting people, because look, at the end of the day, you do need to attract tenants who have a style and they do see things on Instagram and they do want a certain thing. So balancing that is a careful or something we need to be careful about. So the future in co-living and in design and in how designers can and need to respond to the world as it's changing. What does the future hold? Look, we were living in times of change before Corona. And coronavirus is a massive accelerant, as we all know. Things that would have taken a decade to play out, I think, are happening, before our eyes, at the moment. And, I do believe our job as developers is to hunt out where the opportunities lie in that. Fortune favours the bold. We don't want to be, throw caution to the wind, but we do need to, go out there and capitalise on the changes that are going to happen. In my view, I think, once the obvious, economic and employment pain in certain areas passes, there will be a big decentralisation of wealth. I think from major cities to regional towns. the people who had to live on the edge of Manchester and had to live on the edge of London suddenly find themselves, well, we can work from home or we can work from anywhere, local, regional co-working. A lot of that wealth will start to dissipate. And I think that'll be a good thing for smaller towns and cities. So I think there's a huge opportunity for co-working, it's going to come in those areas. Also, as a result of that, you've got to think that, the major cities may become slightly cheaper because, prices might drop. A lot of their tax base, those cities is going to go as that wealth moves out. So, I don't think prices are going to fall to the point where everybody, our co-living target demographic is suddenly going to start buying their own places, rapidly. But it will increase opportunities in those places, I think. I think there's an increasing demand for flexibility. We see that in our own little world, and we certainly hear that. Kind of residential as a service. I've certainly heard that phrase coined by others. People want to stay for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a couple of years. And that kind of service side is going to differentiate. I think it's going to sort the wheat from the chaff in terms of the operators. The flexibility is a challenge at the moment, certainly on the finance point of view as well, because certainly our experience is that lenders don't want to have that. They are not used to having a mix of short stays and long stays, long lets. They typically want you to use only one. So I think it is going to be, co-living needs to become a recognised asset on its own. I think it will be. There's a valuation aspect there, but again, that flexibility, once it's recognised as that, will help lenders provide more products, which will facilitate developers doing more and being more flexible and offering more of it as a service. We've literally just had one lender in the past few days finally acknowledge that actually, if they let us be more flexible with what we're doing and provide, in addition to long lets on an AST, short stays, and use different platforms to manage and advertise it, actually that reduces their risk, because it increases our potential to earn revenue. And they're happy with that. And I'm sure, that's going to be a popular product for them. And I would hope that others, in the lending market would follow suit. Planners, again, in terms of it being an asset, I think the planners, they've typically struggled outside of major cities, because is co-living just a great big dirty HMO? Is it going to be full of undesirable people? Is it going to have big social issues with it? They're imagining things as they were 15 years ago. I think there's going to be pressure, A, from developers coming in, making the pitch to do it, and B, retail, commercial space, being vacant. Again, problems of empty buildings, problems of reduced, tax base. So, opportunity, I think, for co-living developers and operators. I certainly hope so. As we spoke about earlier, demand and revenue will continue to increasingly be driven by design quality and customer experience. That, the fundamental design quality and the operator's expertise layered on top of that is what's going to create success. And well-being, increasingly prioritized by consumers. That's not even a forecast. That's just an observation of what's happening. People vote with their wallets, and they want to lead better lives. They want to live in better places. So I want to read. It's a slightly long quote, but it's a quote from Jeff Bezos, which personally I think is quite powerful. And excuse me as I read it out to you. It wouldn't all fit on my slide, but it's an interesting one. Okay, here goes. So Jeff says, I very frequently get the question, what's going to change in the next 10 years? And that's a very interesting question. It's a very common one. I almost never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And I submit to you that second question is actually the more important of the two, because you can build a business strategy around the things that are stable in time. In our retail business, we know that customers want low prices, and I know that's going to be true 10 years from now. They want fast delivery, they want vast selection. It's impossible to imagine a future in 10 years from now where a customer comes up and says, hey, Jeff, I love Amazon. I just wish the prices were a little bit higher. Or, hey, Jeff, I love Amazon. I just wish you'd deliver a little bit more slowly. It's impossible. And so the effort we put into these things today will still be paying off dividends for our customers 10 years from now. When you have something you know is true, you can afford to put a lot of energy into it. Now, for me, that's really powerful. And we've just been talking about change, innovation. Amazon, obviously one of the biggest innovators of our time. So, hang on a second, now he's talking about building things that are around things that are stable in time and not changing. Is this a contradiction? No, not to me. To me, trends, technology, geography, regulation, the financial landscape, tax, all of that shifts and changes over time, sometimes gradually, sometimes as a result of, a huge event like coronavirus. But in our world, the world that we all operate and work in, what is never, ever going to change? And I believe that is the need for people to live in good quality homes, to live in homes which are functional and comfortable and beautiful, and ultimately let them lead rich and fulfilling lives. When Elon Musk finally, takes us all to Mars in his space rockets, that's still going to be a fundamental need. It's not going to change ever. So, our belief is, and our mission is, that we need to develop homes where people can live rich and fulfilling lives, and that do, support their physical well-being, their mental well-being, let them, focus on their purpose in life, let them be together and enjoy good relationships, let them be fit and healthy. So that's, that is the big mission that I think we should all be, pursuing. And it's also what it's going to do. Again, it's going to give you the business results. I believe it's going to give you the business results that let you keep growing and let you deliver on that and impacting more people. So, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Tom. We've got Kate clapping in the background and Raquel. So they're obviously very impressed with that presentation. It was really, really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
If anybody does have any questions for Tom, I know you do have to get off to do your school run quite quickly.
Yeah, I've
15
got
minutes
about
or so.
15 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So if anybody does have a quick question, raise your hand or just unmute yourself and go straight in. Raquel, I can see you first.
Thank you, Niall. Thomas, amazing presentation. It is true, you've kept me absolutely on my toes, and I love everything that you've said. That quadrant of being is something that actually I have forgotten, and I need to put back into my properties, definitely. I do want to ask you something. Obviously, you speak as an architect yourself, so does that. So do you actually do any architecture for any of the buildings other than yourselves?
I am a qualifying statement. My wife comes from an architecture background. I come from a landscape architecture background. We both moved into urban design. We spent 10 or 15 years in kind of major urban design regeneration projects, and then kind of all the same principles, creating places for people to live better lives, but on a big community, citywide scale, before we went into property development. So so I am not a trained architect. So just before any architects in the room get very upset at me, thinking that I'm calling myself an architect and I'm not. So do we do kind of design on other people's properties? Was that the question?
Yeah.
No is the answer. We work with clients and investors to develop things with them. We don't have a kind of consultancy role that we go to other places. I mean, look, if enough people ask us for it, maybe it's something we consider. But right now, it's we're on our mission to kind of build the kind of student co-living business and scale that. So.
And how big are your projects, basically?
Up to kind of 8. We had a 13, not a 13 room as one cluster, but kind of broken up into multiple units. We like to keep the actual units kind of 6 or 7, kind of around about that size. So yes, we've got a number of those in Lancaster, and in 2021 the plan is to scale up and out to other cities.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Perfect. Dan Jackson, you had a question as well?
I did, yes. Thank you, Niall. Thank you, Tom. I really enjoyed that. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
A quick question. What do you think are the main differences between the sort of student, young professional co-living markets?
In all honesty, we don't. I mean, our focus is students, and what often happens is we'll finish a development outside of the usual student intake time, and so we open it up to professionals. There's a big professional market. So many of the developers around us just focus on students. They don't do a very good job, so there's a very small offering for professionals. And we'll put professionals in, and we might keep them, kind of as long as they want to stay, and then at some point that will switch over to being a student one. Not a lot. Where I mean, look, the undergrads that are coming in at kind of 19, they're a little bit less mature. They don't. They don't have the kind of the life experience of a kind of mid-20s, 30s person. But ultimately, their cultural interests are similar. Their needs are similar. They need, especially now, everybody needs to be working from home. Not a lot.
What about from a financial point of view? I mean, I'm guessing the young professional has got a sizable, a bigger wallet than a student when it comes to their rental budget.
Yeah, they I don't know, because the students, I mean, certainly ours are, the more expensive end of the student, price range, because they are, they're of a kind of higher quality. We keep the prices pretty much the same. Council tax is obviously, an issue, or not an issue, but an additional cost for the young professionals. But typically prices are, or we typically put prices the same. And they, the students, some pay from their loans, some their parents pay, some of them will work. It really depends. But again, we don't see a big difference. I think we probably attract, I don't know, we attract the type of student that wants to live in a better place and is able to live in a better place, for sure. So that probably puts them closer, on a financial and a maturity level, perhaps, to the young professional, versus, other people. But, for me, it's really about their cultural interests.
That's interesting. Thank you.
No pleasure, no problem.
Perfect. Peter, I think you had a question as well, or did you have your hand raised or no?
Yeah. I don't know. You said you're based in Lancashire, so I don't know if you're in Article 4 area, but there's obviously a challenge when you're looking at house. You have to run the numbers. How many rooms can I get in there? And then you're weighing up permitted development versus going to full planning before you purchase. And I understand it's co-living; it all makes sense. So, do you go to the council to explain the type of HMO, because it's obviously been tainted by landlords who have implemented poorly designed HMOs that lack all the things you have to have in these buildings now. So how do you approach the council for this type of thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're not in an Article 4 area, but Article 4 is going to be coming in imminently. The council at the moment for us have been outrageously slow because of coronavirus, which is horrendous. But even before then, what we'd typically do is, we'd approach them, kind of set out our stall of what we want to do. We do have we're accredited with the university. They have our university, the Lancaster University has a kind of qualitative scheme. They know us, they like us. The HMO housing officers at the council know us and like us. They know the standard of what we do. So, we'll often try and initiate a bit of kind of discussion or bring to the planners the kind of, the approval of the housing officers and of the university to say, look, this is not, you're absolutely right. They do think, oh God, another HMO is going to bring, Christ knows what kind of problems to this area. to say, no, look, that's not what's going to happen. Does it always work? Depends on the planners. You know, I spent 10 years working in the planning consultancy, and dealing with council planners is just, you know, it's infuriating, to put it politely. You know, I think all you can do is just, you know, set out your pitch and your position as best you can and try and demonstrate, you know, why it's acceptable. I suppose the issue is, once they go out planning, it's there in perpetuity, and you can, you know, you might be a fantastic operator and fantastic developer, but once you sell up, it could go to someone else who isn't, and that's obviously their concern, which I understand, and that's a legitimate concern. You know, I think all we can do is, you know, try and raise standards across the industry and encourage everybody to just do a little bit better, and hopefully those concerns will start to, you know, fade out and be, you know, be less of an issue. But it is a challenge. It is a challenge.
All right, thank you. Maybe you
Okay,
can
thank you.
lobby the council to get a new class of building.
Yeah, well,
Instead of C4, another one maybe.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because, you know, from the planning point of view, yeah, you know, C4 is, what is the difference between, you know, good operators and bad operators in terms of planning use class? There isn't one. So it is a challenge, and I do understand their concern. But at the end of the day, you know, there is demand for, you know, good quality shared accommodation, and I think, you know, COVID is only going to increase that. You know, we've seen that massively. You know, from the first lockdown, you know, our initial concerns were, oh my God, you know, everybody's going to disappear, demand's going to dry up and vanish. And actually, we had key workers, we had, you know, teachers, doctors coming in saying, we need somewhere to live. And, you know, they've done their time in, you know, crappy shared houses. They want somewhere nice. They want somewhere that is a good standard and it's nice kind of co-living. So, you know, that works really well, and we're just constantly trying to get that message across to the people in the council. And I think that's all you can do. At the end of the day, they're people. And, you know, the more that message gets reinforced and the more they see it with their own eyes, the more comfortable they'll get. You know, but it is hard. It is a challenge. And it depends obviously on the local policy, particularly in Article 4 areas, particularly difficult. But yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I've got one question in chat, asking about the lender you spoke about. You spoke about a lender that was quite flexible in their approach.
Yeah, we were told by our broker that Shawbrook are now comfortable with it. Now, I don't know. I think I have to say, this is literally an email that came in the past couple of days. I've not followed up on conversation with it, but my understanding is that this is a formal product. It wasn't just our badgering on a particular you know, mortgage that we've got. It was actually, okay, we recognize this, we're going to start doing it. I know our broker's been hammering them to make this point. It's like, look, in whose brain does earning more money create more risk from their point of view? You know, they're worried about defaults, right? Oh, you're not going to pay, that's a problem for us. You know, as long as you're paying, there's no issue for the lender. You know, so like I say, at last we seem to have got through, which is, you know, let us be more flexible, let us respond to demand, let us earn more money, you know, and your risk reduces. So, I mean, God, you know, let's hope they kind of roll it out. Let's hope other lenders roll it out. You know, let's hope that they get the rates right, you know, and it's not treated as some kind of premium product, which would completely take away the you know, the advantage of being more flexible and, you know, increasing occupancy in that way. But it'd be a hugely, you know, popular product. It
would be good to see more of the challenger banks coming onto the market with products like that, because Shawbrook does tend to lead the way with a lot of those types of products, and other banks fall behind.
No,
so they've got pretty much got the monopoly for a lot of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we've used them a lot, and they've been fantastic with us. I mean, I remember when we first went to them, other people were saying, "Oh, they're really slow and they're no good." We've had nothing but fantastic, you know, service from them. So
cool, perfect. Okie dokie. There's one more question in the group chat here. Do VAP properties do things to encourage community, or do the housemates usually already know each other?
That's a great question. We do. The house, I suppose, for us, the students typically come as a group when we get students, and and when we have professionals in, we haven't really been running. It's something we've constantly thought about, which is kind of, you know, what kind of activities and how we encourage, you know, people to get together more. It's something we probably haven't done as much of as we'd like to. We've not really seen, you know, I think what we do try and do is we try and match people, you know, because we operate everything as well. It's not just a matter of, great, for this 5 people, bang them in. You know, it's like, hang on a second, these people, you know, they feel like they're going to clash with those people. So we try and, you know, get the correct people in there. And from that, you know, 99 times out of 100, things go really well. So yes, it is something, you know, we probably want to do more of. And look, if you know, if people have ideas, I want to hear them, because you know, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do.
Perfect. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. That's really, really insightful. Lots of great content, and thank you for your time. I have put a link in the chat box to your Instagram account so people can connect with you.
Thank you.
So yeah, people can connect with you there and reach out and say hello. But again, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today. It's really cool.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much. Thanks for having us, guys. It's really nice to kind of be involved, you know, and yeah, I think co-living is, look, it's the future, you know, for lots of different reasons. So I think it's an exciting place to be.
Yeah, totally agree. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Cool. Okay. So we've got, I think we've got, Kate might have another question ready for us.